I never thought that watching my only son get married would end with his fiancée screaming at me to leave my own reception hall. "You are not welcome here, Mary," Anna hissed at me, pointing her finger covered in acrylic nails right at my face. "You have done enough damage. Get out of here." The string quartet stopped playing. Every single pair of eyes turned toward me. I stood there, paralyzed, clutching my purse. The very same purse where I carried the check for $800,000 that I had signed to pay for this entire wedding. My son, my little boy. He just stood there staring at the floor, not a single word. He did not even look at me. I swallowed the knot in my throat. Do not cry. Do not give her that satisfaction. Welcome to our story family. Follow my story until the end and let me know in the comments what city you are watching from. I promise you that what comes next will make you think about the limits of love and family respect. For 30 years, I have earned every single dollar with the sweat of my brow. My bakery, Sweet Memories, started as a tiny little shop in a corner of Chicago and grew into a highly respected chain. After Robert, my husband, left me for his secretary when Charlie was only 8 years old, I swore that my son would never go without anything. I worked double shifts. I saved every possible penny. I missed school plays because I was busy kneading bread. I stayed awake until the early hours of the morning decorating wedding cakes while Charlie slept. All of that so he could have the education he deserved, so he could study finance at the University of Chicago without ever worrying about tuition. And my Charlie did it looking so handsome in his expensive suit, working at that top-tier financial firm. I never complained when his visits became less frequent. "I am just busy, Mom," he would always say on the phone. I understood. That is how life is. When he met Anna Davis, a yoga instructor from a wealthy family, I was happy for him. She had a pretty smile and seemed to make him happy, but there was something in the way she looked at me, as if she were evaluating me, that made me feel uncomfortable. "It is just your imagination, Mary," I would tell myself. "You are being paranoid." The very first time Anna visited my bakery, she looked around the place with critical eyes. "It is quaint," she said, as if that were a compliment. She did not mention that this quaint bakery had paid for the incredibly expensive watch Charlie had given her for her birthday. When they announced their engagement, Charlie called me completely thrilled. "Mom, I want to give Anna the wedding of her dreams." His eyes were shining in a way that reminded me of the little boy he used to be. How could I say no? "Of course, son," I told him. "I will help you with whatever I can." I did not know back then that whatever I can would mean $800,000, or that every single decision Anna made would be more extravagant than the last. The Grandview Country Club was glowing under the setting Chicago sun. The tables were decorated with floral arrangements that cost more than my very first car. Imported crystal from Venice sparkled under strategically placed lighting, and it was all paid for by me. I dressed up in my best navy blue gown. I had dyed my gray hair and visited the beauty salon for the first time in months. I wanted to look presentable for Anna and her family. The Davis family, with their important last name and their noses perpetually stuck up in the air. Anna was radiant, of course. Her dress probably cost more than 3 months of rent for my apartment. Her mother, Isabella Davis, hovered around her like a queen bee, fixing her hair and whispering in her ear, "Mary." Isabella greeted me with an air kiss near my cheek. "How thoughtful of you to have made such an effort." Her eyes scanned my dress, evaluating it and clearly finding it to be insufficient. I smiled and squeezed my purse. Inside was the check that would pay for all of this. I wondered if her attitude would change if she knew that her daughter was about to have the wedding of her dreams, thanks to the humble baker she despised so much. "Thank you, Isabella. Everything looks beautiful, doesn't it?" "Yes, although Anna wanted white orchids, not these. What are they, calla lilies? But I suppose they will do." I took a deep breath. The calla lilies had been the third flower option we had switched to because Anna kept changing her mind. every single change meant an additional fee that I absorbed in silence. I saw Charlie surrounded by Anna and her friends, all of them wearing expensive suits and sharing rehearsed laughs. When our eyes met, he smiled at me briefly before someone else demanded his attention. "Mary, would you mind sitting over there with Charlie and his aunts and uncles?" Isabella pointed to a table in the corner far away from the center of the action. The seats right next to the bride and groom are reserved for the immediate family. I swallowed hard. I was the mother of the groom. There could not possibly be anyone closer than me, but I nodded, not wanting to cause any problems. As I walked over to my assigned table, I heard Anna talking to the catering manager. No, we already changed the menu. I do not want that dessert. It is way too common." The man looked completely confused. "Ma'am, the chocolate cake was confirmed 3 days ago by your mother-in-law." Anna visibly tensed up. "My mother-in-law does not make the decisions around here. This is my wedding." My heart started racing. Chocolate cake had been Charlie's absolute favorite ever since he was a little boy. I had suggested including it as a sweet little nod to his childhood. "Is there a problem?" I asked as I walked closer to them. Anna turned to face me, her smile incredibly tense. "Mary, I really appreciate your input, but we had already decided that the dessert would be the artisan berry tart." "But Charlie loves chocolate. I thought it would be a really nice touch." "Charlie prefers much more sophisticated options nowadays," she replied sharply. "Besides, chocolate would completely stain my dress if there were an accident." From across the room, I saw Charlie watching us with a worried look on his face. He did not come over to stand by my side. "Of course," I said, taking a step back. "Whatever you prefer, Anna." Isabella appeared right next to her daughter. "Is everything okay, sweetheart? Is Charlie's mother causing problems?" "Nothing I cannot handle." "Mom," Anna answered, shooting me a look of pure superiority. I went back to my assigned seat, feeling the heavy weight of everyone staring at me. Robert's relatives, who barely even knew me, greeted me with obvious discomfort. I was the ex-wife, the single mother, the one who simply did not fit into this world of fake appearances. Throughout dinner, I watched how Charlie laughed with Anna's parents, how he leaned in close to her every single time she spoke, and I wondered when my son had turned into a complete stranger, when he had stopped defending me. As the night dragged on, the knot in my stomach only grew tighter. I had paid for everything from the custom linen napkins to the most expensive imported wine, and yet I felt like a total intruder. Isabella Davis paraded around the guests, as if she were the grand host introducing the groom's family, as if she were doing them a massive favor. "And this is Mary Charlie's mother. She runs a little bakery downtown." "It is a pastry shop," I corrected her softly. "I actually have 5 locations across Chicago." Isabella raised an eyebrow. "How adorable." "Anna always says it is just so rustic." I drank my entire glass of wine in one gulp. The alcohol did absolutely nothing to calm my growing irritation. When it was finally time for dessert, I noticed that they had actually served both the chocolate cake and the berry tart, a tiny victory. But then I saw Anna whispering something into Charlie's ear while staring right at me. My son frowned. He walked over to my table, looking incredibly uncomfortable. "Mom Anna thinks that maybe you are trying to sabotage her decisions for the wedding." "What? Of course not. I only suggested the chocolate cake because it is your absolute favorite." "It was my favorite when I was 12 years old," he said with a heavy sigh of exasperation. "Anna has worked so hard planning all of this." "Anna has worked hard." The words spilled out of my mouth before I could even stop them. "I am the one who is paying for all of this, Charlie. Every single detail, every little whim, every last-minute change." Charlie's expression turned ice cold. "Do not start this, Mom, not right here. Do not start. I have given everything for this wedding. I have emptied my life savings just so you could have the perfect day." "Nobody ever asked you to do that." he replied, lowering his voice. "If it was too much for you, you should have just said so." I felt like he had just slapped me across the face. Nobody asked me. "You came to me saying that you wanted to give Anna the wedding of her dreams. Or did you magically forget about that conversation?" Charlie looked around the room, clearly embarrassed that someone might overhear us. "Look, just try not to cause any more problems, okay? It is really important to Anna that everything turns out completely perfect." "And what about me? Does it not matter how I feel?" "Please, Mom," he begged. "It is only one day, and after this, everything will go back to normal." Before I could even answer him, Anna appeared right by his side, hooking her arm possessively through Charlie's arm. She had been drinking quite a bit of champagne. Her cheeks were flushed red, and her eyes sparkled with something I immediately recognized as barely contained malice. "Is everything okay, honey?" she asked without even looking at me. "Yes, I was just talking to my mom about the desserts," Charlie replied, visibly tensing up. Anna finally deigned to look at me. "Mary, I appreciate that you want to contribute, but we really need you to respect our decisions. Charlie and I are the ones who planned this wedding." Something deep inside of me just snapped. 30 years of pure sacrifices, of putting my son ahead of absolutely everything, of working myself to exhaustion just to give him the best in life. And now here I was being treated like an unwanted intruder at the very event I was funding. "Your decisions, your wedding." My voice was low but incredibly firm. "I have paid for every single napkin, every single flower, and every single drop of wine in this entire place. Everything you have, Anna, and everything Charlie has is all thanks to my hard work and my personal sacrifice." Anna's face completely changed, her polite mask dropping right to the floor. Her voice grew louder, drawing the attention of everyone standing nearby. "How dare you? You always do this. You are always trying to control everything. Charlie and I are so sick and tired of your constant interference." The string quartet abruptly stopped playing. The dining hall fell completely silent. "Anna, please," Charlie mumbled, but she was way too angry to stop now. "No," she screamed, pointing her finger right at me in an accusing manner. "You are not welcome here, Mary. You have done enough damage. Get out of here." The silence that followed was deafening. Every single stare in the room was fixed on me. I waited with my heart hammering inside my chest for Charlie to say something to defend me. But my son just stood right there, staring down at the floor, his hands curled into tight fists at his sides. Not one single word. He did not even look me in the eyes. In that exact moment, I knew that I had truly lost my son. With as much dignity as I could possibly gather, I stood up, grabbed my purse, the very same one containing the check for $800,000, and I walked straight toward the exit. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody said a word. As I walked across the dining hall, I felt every pair of eyes following my every move. The heavy weight of the humiliation was crushing me, but I kept my head held high. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. The parking lot was dark and completely quiet, a sharp contrast to the emotional chaos I had just left behind. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely even find my car keys. I sat behind the steering wheel, but I did not start the engine. Anna's voice, sharp and full of pure venom, kept repeating in my head like a dark curse. "You are not welcome here." The worst part was not Anna. It was Charlie, my own son. He just stood there acting like a total stranger, keeping his eyes glued to the floor, far too cowardly to stand up for me. My cell phone started buzzing inside my purse, lighting up the screen with message after message. Karen, my sister, texted, "Why did you leave? Are you okay?" Patty, my sister-in-law, wrote, "Stop making such a huge drama, Mary." Mike Roberts' brother sent, "Typical of you, always blowing things way out of proportion." Not a single message asking what they had done to me, not one single person taking my side. A sob rose up in my throat, but I forced it back down. I was not going to cry over them, not tonight. Instead, I let the anger grow and harden deep inside of me, becoming as solid and as freezing cold as steel. They thought I was weak because I had stayed quiet. They actually thought they could humiliate me and still get to enjoy the dream wedding that I had built for them. Not anymore. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and searched for the contact name of Rose Miller, the wedding planner. My finger hovered over her number for a brief moment. Then I took a deep breath and hit dial. It rang twice before she answered the call, her voice sounding cheerful and completely professional. "Good evening, Mary. I was actually just reviewing the final details for tomorrow." "I am going to cancel everything," I told her without a single trace of emotion. There was a heavy pause on the other end of the line. "Excuse me, I am sorry. What are you canceling?" "Absolutely everything. The reception hall, the vendors, the payments. I am pulling out." "Mary, the contracts are all under your name, but are you completely sure about this? This is incredibly last minute." "I am positive." My voice did not shake even a little bit. "If I am not welcome at this wedding, then my money is not welcome either." By the time I arrived back at my house, my hands had finally stopped shaking. The burning anger had transformed into a much sharper sense of pure determination. They wanted me gone perfect, but they were about to learn the hard way that this entire fantasy had been built right on my back. I sat down at my kitchen table, flipping through the massive wedding binder I had organized for Charlie and Anna. Every single tab was a glaring reminder of my endless generosity. Reception, venue, catering, floral arrangements, photographer, string quartet. They had contributed absolutely nothing besides a few Pinterest boards and a whole lot of privileged attitudes. Every single invoice, every contract, every signature belonged to me. I picked up the phone and started dialing. First on the list was the event hall. "Good evening. This is Mary Smith speaking. I am the primary contract holder for the Smith and Davis wedding scheduled for tomorrow." "Yes, of course. Everything is completely ready for—" "I am canceling the event effective immediately." There was a very long pause. "Ma'am, are you absolutely sure there is a substantial cancellation penalty fee?" "That will not be an issue. I am the one who paid the security deposit, and I am well within my legal rights according to the signed contract." Then came a very cautious reply. "Understood. We will process the termination right now." Click. Next up was the florist following the exact same routine. Then the catering service, and finally the wedding photographer. With every single phone call, I felt my spine straightening up just a little bit more. With every conversation, the big picture became crystal clear to me. Charlie and Anna had not just wanted my financial support, they had completely expected it. This wedding was not theirs. It was mine, paid for, organized, and sustained entirely by me. And if I was not welcome there, my money would not be either. When I finished the very last call with the string quartet, I allowed myself to show a small, ice-cold smile. Tomorrow morning, they would wake up thinking they were heading straight into their magical fairy tale. But there would be no flowers. There would be no food. There would be no music. There would be nothing left but the sad remains of their own overwhelming arrogance. The house was completely silent except for the soft clicking sound of my computer mouse as I checked my email inbox. I opened the digital PDF files one by one. The venue contract, the catering contract, the music contract. Every single line bore my name, my personal signature, and my home billing address. They loved my money a whole lot more than they ever loved me, I thought to myself, with deep bitterness. Just a few weeks ago, Anna had insisted, "We are going to pay you back for half of this, I promise you, as soon as Charlie gets his big promotion." That hollow promise felt completely ridiculous right now. I opened up the contract from the floral shop and carefully reviewed the fine print. Any cancellation made by the client will result in the total loss of the initial deposit. But I was the legal client here. Not Anna, not Charlie. A massive wave of pure vindication washed over my body. They could not just call up these vendors tomorrow and magically reinstate everything. Without my wallet, they were completely defenseless. The loud sound of a car door slamming shut outside my window pulled me right out of my deep thoughts. I peeked through the window blinds and saw Charlie's car parked in the driveway. My chest grew tight as I watched him quickly walk up toward my front door. He was moving with a sense of frantic urgency that I had not seen from him in years. A loud, heavy knock echoed through the entire house. "Mom, open the door. We really need to talk." I did not move a single muscle. He knocked again, much harder this time. "Mom, I know you are in there." I stayed perfectly still, keeping my hands tightly clasped together in my lap. Let him sweat out there. Let him wonder if I was ever going to open that door. He could no longer simply demand my time whenever he wanted it. After a full minute passed, I heard his voice again. He sounded much angrier now, his words muffled through the heavy wood of the front door. "You cannot do this to us. This is our wedding." My lips slowly curled upward into the tiniest little smile. "No, Charlie. It was not yours. It never belonged to you." The loud knocking eventually stopped, but I still did not move from my kitchen chair. My heart was beating so incredibly hard that it felt like it was going to break right through my ribs. But I forced my body to remain completely still, just staring blankly at the blinking cursor on my computer screen. For 30 long years, I had always been the one who fixed everything. I was the one who smoothed over every single argument. I would write the heavy checks and bite my tongue just to keep the family peace. But not anymore. The heavy silence outside continued to stretch on. I peeked through the window blinds one more time. Charlie's car was completely gone from the driveway. Then my cell phone started vibrating violently on the table. "Charlie at 11:13 at night. Why are you not answering your phone?" 11:14. What the hell is going on? 11:15. You are completely ruining our lives right now. That last dramatic message actually made me laugh out loud. It was a bitter, hollow sound that did not even feel like my own natural voice. I just let the phone buzz over and over again until finally, completely against my better judgment, I answered the call. "Mom, what on earth are you doing?" Charlie's voice was cracking with pure, unfiltered rage. "You cannot just cancel the entire wedding like this. Everyone is waiting to—" My voice was low, freezing cold, and much calmer than I actually felt inside. "You stood right there yesterday, and you let that girl humiliate me in front of everyone. You did not say a single word to stop her because you did not want to cause a scene." "Oh, I see. But it was perfectly fine for Anna to cause a massive scene." There was a very long, uncomfortable pause on the line. "Mom, please listen to me. Anna was just really upset, but she did not actually mean it that way. You are completely overreacting to all of this." "Overreacting?" I screamed right back at him. "I paid for absolutely everything, Charlie. The venue, the expensive catering, the live music, everything. And you just stood by and let her treat me like some unwanted party crasher. This is our wedding," he yelled back at me. "No," I said, with absolute calm. "It was my gift to you, and now it is completely over." "Mom, please, I am begging you. You cannot do this to us. We are going to lose the reception hall and all of our vendors. Anna is literally sobbing her eyes out right now." Well, she probably should have thought about that before she decided to kick me out of my very own expensive event. A loud beep interrupted our incredibly tense silence. Another text message popped up on my phone screen. "Anna at 11:18. You bitter, jealous old woman. You have always hated me from the very start." 11:19. I cannot believe you are actually ruining Charlie's entire life just out of pure spite. 11:20. Stay far away from us. You are incredibly toxic. My lips pressed together into a very thin line as I read her awful words. Have you seen the lovely text messages your sweet fiancée is sending me right now? I asked Charlie. She is just really upset right now, he mumbled quietly. Do you mean she is finally showing her true colors? I asked him. Mom, please. Goodbye, Charlie. I hung up the phone before he could say another single word. For a long moment, I just sat right there staring blankly at the wall, my chest heaving up and down. My phone started vibrating over and over again, the bright screen constantly flashing Anna's name. I flipped the phone face down onto the kitchen table. Tomorrow morning, their perfect little fairy tale castle was going to come crashing down. And for the very first time in my life, I would not be the one running in to save them. But what I did not know back then was that the absolute worst part was still yet to come. Are you enjoying this first part? Let me know in the comments what city you are watching from, and very soon you will discover how Mary takes back her power and dignity in the face of the ultimate betrayal from her son and future daughter-in-law. The loud banging on my front door started just before 9 in the morning. "Mom, open the door. We really need to talk." I did not move at first. I had barely slept a wink all night long. My morning coffee was sitting completely untouched on the kitchen counter, the steam having cooled off a long time ago. The heavy banging came again, much louder this time around. "Mom, do not make me stand out here all day long." Taking a very deep breath, I walked over to the front door and opened it just a tiny crack. Charlie's face was bright red and his hair was completely messy, looking like he had not slept either. He pushed his way right inside without even waiting for an invitation. "What the hell, Mom?" He barked, his voice rising in volume before he even stepped foot into the living room. "You destroyed absolutely everything. Do you even care about what you just did to me? About what you did to Anna?" "Lower your voice right now," I said with a freezing tone. "You are standing inside my house." He ran a frustrated hand through his messy hair, pacing back and forth like a trapped animal. "The vendors have all packed up and left. The reception venue told us they already gave our spot to another couple. The floral shop will not even return our frantic phone calls. Do you understand what you just did?" "Yes, I do," I replied very calmly. "I simply stopped financing my own public humiliation." His eyes went wide with pure, unadulterated disbelief. Humiliation Anna was just really stressed out. She did not actually mean what she said to you. "Did she mean it?" I yelled right back at him. "She stood right there in front of every single guest and told me to get out of the building, and you just let her do it." His jaw tensed up tight. "I was just trying not to make the situation any worse. You stood there acting like a total stranger. Charlie, you did not defend me. You did not even look me in the eyes." His voice dropped down, sounding completely cold. "You have always been exactly like this, haven't you? So incredibly controlling and selfish. This is exactly why Dad left you." His cruel words hit me like a physical slap to the face. It literally knocked the breath right out of my lungs. But instead of completely crumbling apart, I felt something deep inside of me turn into hard stone. "Selfish." I repeated the word slowly. My voice was trembling with absolute fury. "Do you have any idea how much I have sacrificed for you? The countless checks I have written, the endless hours I worked, the personal dreams I gave up just so you could go out and achieve yours." He shrank back just a little bit, but his facial expression remained completely defiant. "You chose her over me," I said in a very quiet voice, "so you can go ahead and let her pay for the fancy wedding she wants so badly." He stared blankly right at me, his mouth opening as if he wanted to argue, but no words came out. I walked straight over to the front door and pulled it wide open. "You need to leave right now." For a brief second, he hesitated. Then he stormed right past me, slamming the heavy door shut so hard that the living room walls actually shook. I sank down onto the couch, my hands shaking uncontrollably. For the very first time in years, I fully realized that Charlie was no longer the sweet little boy I had raised. He was a grown man that I did not even recognize anymore. Right around noon, the dreaded phone calls started rolling in. First up was my sister-in-law, Patty. "Mary," she started off very cautiously, "I just got off the phone with Charlie. He is completely devastated. You really need to fix this mess." I stared down at my phone, my lips pressed into a very thin, hard line. Fix this. How exactly am I supposed to do that? Just reinstate the vendor payments, she said in a soft voice. They are just young kids. They made a stupid mistake, but this is their wedding day. You do not want to completely ruin it for them. My hands curled up into tight fists. I did not ruin absolutely anything, I said in a low tone. They ruined it themselves the exact moment they decided to treat me like a total stranger. There was an incredibly awkward pause on the line. Mary, you have always had a very strong personality. Maybe Anna just felt a little bit threatened by that. Threatened? I literally paid for her entire fantasy dream wedding. Look, Patty let out a heavy sigh. I am just saying, do not let your stubborn pride get in the way of family. Just be the bigger person here. I ended the call without even giving her a response. Exactly 5 minutes later, the phone rang once again. Mary? I immediately recognized that deep voice. Robert, my ex-husband, Charlie's father. Robert. I said his name without an ounce of emotion. Charlie called me crying, he said. He is falling apart right now. I have no idea what happened at the rehearsal dinner, but canceling absolutely everything is just way too much. It is too much. My voice rose in volume despite all my best efforts to remain perfectly calm. Robert. Where were you when Anna kicked me out in front of 50 guests? Where were you when our own son stood there acting like a complete coward? Do not make this about our old wounds, he said sharply. Now is not the time for this. Just let the kids have their special day. Be the bigger person here. There is that stupid phrase again, I said with deep bitterness. Be the bigger person. That is just secret code for keep paying the bills and keep your mouth shut. Mary, do not be so incredibly dramatic. Goodbye, Robert. I hung up the phone before he could even finish his sentence. I stared at my own reflection in the window glass. My face looked pale and completely exhausted. So this was what it had come to. I was not actual family to any of them. I was nothing but a walking ATM machine. That painful realization did not actually crush me the way I thought it would. Instead, it settled deep into my bones, feeling freezing cold and incredibly heavy. They honestly thought I was weak just because I loved them so much. But they were about to learn that even a mother's love has its hard limits. I do not even remember when the tears started falling or when they finally stopped. I only remember sitting there in the dim light of my kitchen gripping a mug of cold tea and staring blankly at the floor. The long hours were slipping away like fine sand falling right through my fingers. The emotional pain hit me in massive waves, not just because of Charlie and Anna, but because of all those years I spent bending over backward, breaking myself apart, and bleeding out for people who now viewed me as completely disposable. The cell phone buzzed again. This time, it was from a cousin. Mary, please do not destroy this entire family over a simple misunderstanding. I muted the device without even bothering to reply. Somewhere in between the quiet sobs and the heavy silence, an old image popped into my mind. It was my own wedding day. I was 23 years old, standing there in a fancy lace gown that cost way more than our very first car. My mother-in-law had pulled me aside that very morning, and she told me something. Remember this. Quiet women make the absolute best wives. Do not go making waves. Back then, I just nodded my head, smiled brightly, and swallowed down every single wave of emotion that tried to rise up inside of me. But right now, sitting all alone in my kitchen, decades later, I finally saw things with absolute clarity. Being quiet does not mean being weak. I was no longer the exact same woman who once folded herself in half just to keep everybody else happy. That young woman was long gone. A very strange sense of calm settled over my body. It felt heavier than pure exhaustion, but much sharper than the deep pain. I stood up from my chair, dumped the untouched tea down the sink drain, and wiped the dried tears off my cheeks. I had done enough crying. I was completely done begging for tiny crumbs of love and basic respect. If Charlie and Anna honestly thought they could publicly humiliate me and still get to dance their way down the aisle in the magical fairy tale that I paid for, they were completely wrong. Dead wrong. My phone rang yet again. This time, the caller ID showed Anna's name. I hesitated for a brief second, but I finally decided to answer the call. Mary. Her voice sounded exhausted, but it still carried a sharp edge of barely contained hostility. We really need to talk about what you have done. About what I have done. I kept my voice perfectly level. Yes, you have completely ruined our wedding over one tiny little disagreement. This reaction is completely blown out of proportion. A tiny little disagreement, I repeated her words. You publicly humiliated me and kicked me right out of the rehearsal dinner. I was just really stressed out, Anna said, her voice shifting into a slightly more apologetic tone, although it sounded completely forced. Everybody says things they do not actually mean when they are under a lot of pressure, but doing this canceling everything, it is just way too much. It is not too much, Anna. It is exactly what you asked for. You wanted me gone, so I left, and I took my money right along with me. There was a very tense silence on the line before she finally replied, her voice turning much harsher now. You have always been exactly like this, haven't you? Always using your massive bank account to control Charlie, to control all of us. I am so incredibly sick of your constant manipulations. I took a very deep breath. Anna, I am going to tell you something right now, and I need you to listen to me very carefully. I do not owe you a single thing. I do not owe you a fancy wedding. I do not owe you any explanations, and I certainly do not owe you my silence or my submission. For 30 long years, I have given absolutely everything to my son, and he actively chose not to defend me when you viciously attacked me. That was his personal choice, and these are the real-life consequences. Do you even realize what you are doing? Her voice actually shook this time. Do you know how much damage you are causing right now? Every single person is going to be gossiping about this. Your very own son is going to hate you forever. If my own son decides to hate me just because I refuse to let people walk all over me, then he never truly loved me to begin with. You are nothing but a bitter, vindictive old woman. Anna spat out through the phone, completely dropping any fake act of politeness. Charlie was absolutely right about you. You are exactly the same as always, so incredibly selfish and controlling. It's no wonder your husband left you. My fingers squeezed tightly around the plastic phone case, but my voice remained incredibly calm. Goodbye, Anna. I truly hope you manage to find someone else out there who is willing to fund all of your expensive little tantrums. I hung up the phone and immediately blocked her phone number. I sat there in the silence, staring down at the muted cell phone resting in the palm of my hand. A very strange, peaceful feeling washed over my entire body. For the first time in decades, I had finally stood up for my own personal boundaries. I had said the word no, and I had actually stood my ground. The loud ringing of the front doorbell echoed through the house, making me jump. I peeked through the small peephole and saw Charlie standing on the porch again, but this time he was accompanied by Anna. Both of their faces looked tense and filled with pure determination. I did not open the door. Instead, I spoke to them right through the solid wood. There is absolutely nothing left to talk about. Mom, please open up. Charlie's voice sounded completely desperate now. We just want to talk to you. We can still fix all of this. There is nothing left to fix, Charlie. I have already made my final decision. You cannot do this to us, Anna screamed, banging her fists against the door. This is our wedding day. We have literally been planning this for months. And I have been the one paying for it for months, I replied very calmly, and that financial privilege has officially come to an end. Mom. Charlie sounded like he was right on the verge of tears. Please open the door. Every single guest is asking what happened. Anna's parents are absolutely furious right now. I do not know what to do anymore." For just a fleeting second, my motherly heart softened. This was my son out there, my little boy. But then I instantly remembered how he had stayed completely quiet, how he had allowed them to treat me like absolute garbage. "You really should have thought about all of that before you allowed your fiancé to kick me out of the dinner party. Charlie, adult actions have real-world consequences." "You are completely impossible," Anna screamed. "Let's go, Charlie. She's not even worth it." I listened to their heavy footsteps walking away from the porch, Anna's voice muttering furious insults the entire time. A car door slammed shut with a loud bang, and then the loud engine finally roared to life. I slowly slid down the wall until I was sitting flat on the hardwood floor. Leaning my back against the front door, I did not feel any sense of sweet victory. I only felt a deeply sad certainty that I had done the absolute right thing, even though it hurt so much. I barely slept a wink that entire night. The harsh words from Charlie and Anna kept replaying over and over in my mind, mixing in with sweet memories from his childhood and all the happy little moments we had once shared together. How on earth had we ended up like this? The very next morning, I forced myself to get out of bed and continue with my normal daily routine. I opened up my laptop computer to check the business emails for the bakery. I desperately needed a distraction. I needed to dive deep into the hard work that had always been my saving grace. And that was exactly when I saw it. The email subject line read in bold letters, "Final payment confirmation for the ultimate Maldives honeymoon package." At first, I honestly thought it was just junk mail, but then I saw the billing address, marysmith@hotmail.com. That was my personal email, and it was charged to my own credit card. My stomach dropped right down to the floor. I clicked it open. "Thank you for booking your 14-night stay at the Paradise Cove Villa. Enjoy your oceanfront view and your private butler service. The total charges have been successfully applied to your American Express card ending in 3921. That was my personal credit card. There was even a cheerful little note at the very bottom: "Your VIP guests Charlie Smith and Anna Davis will enjoy unlimited premium champagne and a private luxury yacht excursion as part of their elite package. Congratulations." The exact booking date was from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Right around the exact same time, I was meeting up with Anna for lunch just to discuss her fancy floral arrangements. She had secretly been using my credit card to plan a $42,000 luxury honeymoon trip without even asking me, without saying a single word about it. My hands started shaking violently as I scrolled down a little bit further. There was another unopened email waiting for me. "Thank you for your recent purchase bridal luggage set Louis Vuitton." I felt something break inside of me. They had not only taken my generosity for granted, they had planned it from the very beginning. The wedding was not a celebration of love, it was a heist, a slow and calculated extraction of my money, my trust, my dignity, and they had not even bothered to hide it. I opened my banking app and scrolled through the recent transactions. $25,000. The bridal boutique, $18,000. Private chef deposit for Paradise Villa, $6,000. Exclusive spa treatments. The Bahamas, not a single charge made by me, not one. I stared at the numbers on the screen. My jaw was tense. My pulse was hammering. They never intended to pay me back, not for the wedding, not for anything. And yet they had the audacity to call me selfish. I snapped my laptop shut with a loud click and leaned back in my chair. There would be no more phone calls, no more second chances, no more maternal indulgence. They had shown me who they were. Now it was time to show them who I was. With trembling hands, I called the bank. "Good morning, I want to report fraudulent charges on my card." "Of course. Mrs. Davis, can you identify the charges you consider to be fraudulent?" I read the entire list, every purchase Ashley made, every reservation, every dollar they had spent without my knowledge or consent. "Mrs. Davis, some of these charges are quite old. Did you just discover them?" "Yes," I said firmly. My card was in the possession of my son and his fiancée. I believed they were using it for small expenses related to the wedding with my permission. I just discovered that they have been making extravagant personal purchases without my consent. There was a pause. And then, I understand. We are going to investigate these charges and block your card immediately to prevent any more unauthorized transactions. Thank you, I replied, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. And I want to close the joint account I have with my son, Charlie Davis. After hanging up, I sat in silence for several minutes. What I had just done was irreversible. There was a line that once crossed would change our relationship forever, but they had crossed their own line long before taking advantage of my love and generosity. The phone rang almost immediately. It was Charlie. "What have you done?" His voice was trembling with fury. "The bank just called me. They have frozen the joint account and they are investigating Ashley for fraud." "It is not fraud to investigate unauthorized charges on my own card, Charlie. You gave Ashley the card for the wedding expenses." "For the wedding expenses," I emphasized. "Not for a luxury honeymoon in the Bahamas or Louis Vuitton luggage." There was a tense silence. "We were going to pay you back," he said finally, his voice lower. "With what?" "With the money you took out of our joint account. The $15,000 you withdrew last month." Another silence, longer this time. "How did you know? I am your mother, Charlie, not an idiot. I have been checking your finances since you were in high school." "I cannot believe you would do this." His voice cracked. "It is like you want to destroy us." "No, son. You destroyed yourselves when you decided to take advantage of me, when you decided that my dignity was worth less than Ashley's whims." "Mom, goodbye, Charlie." I hung up. My hands were firm now. No more tears, no more doubts. I was reclaiming my life, my money, and my respect. The next morning, I made an appointment with my lawyer, Sarah Reynolds. Sarah had been my lawyer for years, sharp, discreet, and unbreakable. As I sat across from her in her sunlit office, I felt the familiar knot in my stomach tighten. "Mary," she said kindly, folding her hands, "you look tired. Tell me what is going on." I told her everything. The rehearsal dinner, Ashley's public humiliation of me, Charlie's silence, the wedding I had financed down to the very last napkin, and how I had canceled every vendor, the unauthorized charges, the secret honeymoon, everything. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When I finally stopped talking, she leaned back in her chair. "Let me be very clear," she said. "You have done absolutely nothing wrong. Every contract is in your name. Every payment came from your account. If they want this wedding, they will have to pay for it themselves." I exhaled slowly, a small flicker of relief breaking through the rage. But what if they try to sue me? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Sarah's lips curled into a faint smile. "On what grounds they do not have a leg to stand on? And if they, or their lawyer, are foolish enough to send you a letter, forward it to me. I will handle it." A loud knock on the office door startled me. Sarah's assistant poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, there is a man on the phone. He says it is urgent. Charlie Davis." I froze. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Do you want to take it?" "No," I said quickly. "Not right now." "Good," Sarah replied. "Let him sweat. You have spent enough time carrying him." For the first time in weeks, I felt something unfamiliar in my chest. Not rage, not pain, it was power, real and silent power. I nodded. "You are right." Sarah slid a packet of papers across the desk. "I am going to draft a formal notice to every vendor confirming the cancellation and your exclusive legal authority. And if Charlie or Ashley show up here, they are going to be talking to me, not to you." As I signed the papers, my hand was no longer shaking. Let them be furious. Let them scream. I was no longer their wallet. "We are also going to send a formal letter to Charlie and Ashley regarding the unauthorized expenses." Sarah continued. Not necessarily to litigate, but to establish a clear legal record of what has occurred. If they decide to take this further, we will be prepared. Do you think they will? I asked. Sarah shrugged. Desperate people do desperate things, but do not worry, they have no case. When I left Sarah's office, the sun was shining brightly over Chicago for the first time in days. I lifted my face to the sky and let the warmth caress my skin. I was not alone in this fight. I had the law on my side. By the time I got home from Sarah's office, my phone was vibrating nonstop. At first, I ignored it, but then the notifications flooded in. Dozens of them, Facebook, Instagram, even messages from people I had not spoken to in years. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook. The first thing I saw was Ashley's face, her eyes red and full of tears. Her hair was pulled back into a perfectly messy bun while she clutched a tissue in her hand. The text above her video read, "I never thought my future mother-in-law would destroy our wedding out of jealousy and spite. My heart is broken." I hit play. She canceled everything. Ashley sobbed to the camera. The venue, the flowers, the food, she even threatened the vendors. After everything we have done for her, she is trying to ruin the happiest day of our lives. Her voice cracked for dramatic effect. We did not want to share this publicly, but she left us no choice. Please pray for us as we try to rebuild what she destroyed. The comments were already piling up. Wow, what kind of mother does that? Cut her out of your life. She sounds toxic. I am so sorry. Ashley, stay strong. A new wave of rage burned in my chest as I scrolled. Every single word was a lie. After everything we have done for her, I had paid for her dream wedding. I had written checks for her designer dress, her overpriced venue, her hand-picked catering, and now she was painting me as the villain. Another notification popped up this time from Instagram. Ashley had posted a photo of her and Charlie hugging with the caption, "We will not let hate win. Family is who builds you up, not who tears you down." Hundreds of likes, dozens of supportive comments. I felt my hands tremble, not from pain, but from fury. I opened my notes app and started a list. Every post, every comment, every lie I took, screenshots of them one by one, saving them carefully in a folder, marked for Sarah. If Ashley wanted a war, she was going to get one, but not the kind she expected. This time, I would not cry. This time, I would not beg. This time, I would fight. I did not have to wait long. It started with an email from the florist. "We regret to inform you that due to a canceled contract, we cannot provide services for the Davis and Miller wedding. We wish you the best. See?" Then the photographer posted an Instagram story about an unexpected opening this weekend and tagged his business account. Next came the live band, a polite voicemail. "Hello, Mrs. Davis. I just wanted to confirm that we have marked the Davis and Miller event as canceled. Thank you for letting us know." The dominoes were falling one after another by Friday morning. The wedding was in ruins, and that was when the call came from Robert Miller, Ashley's father. "Mrs. Davis," he began, his voice tense, but trying to sound reasonable. "I understand there have been certain misunderstandings between you and my daughter." "They were not misunderstandings, Mr. Miller," I replied calmly. "Your daughter publicly insulted me and kicked me out of an event that I was paying for." There was an awkward pause. "Look, we all say things in the heat of the moment. Ashley is young. She was stressed about the wedding. Is that your excuse for allowing her to use my credit card without authorization to book a luxury honeymoon?" Another pause, longer this time. "I was not aware of that." He finally said, his voice more cautious, "But I am sure there is a reasonable explanation." "There is," I said. "Your daughter and my son thought they could take advantage of me without consequences. They were wrong." "Mrs. Davis," his tone shifted, becoming more direct. "Let us be practical. This situation is embarrassing for everyone. The guests are calling, asking what is going on. We have family coming in from New York, from Texas." You should have thought about that earlier. If this is about money, he said, lowering his voice, we can come to an agreement. I know you have invested heavily in this wedding. It is not about money, Mr. Miller. It is about respect, and it is already too late. I hung up feeling a strange mix of sadness and determination. It was sad to see how people tried to buy their way out of consequences, but comforting to know that I was no longer willing to sell my dignity. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was Carol, my older sister. I just saw Ashley's video. What is really going on, Mary? I typed out a brief summary of the events, including the unauthorized charges and the public humiliation. Her reply came minutes later. I always knew that girl was trouble. Why did you not tell me this was happening? You are not alone, sister. I felt tears in my eyes, but this time, not from sadness. Sometimes we forget that we are not alone in the world, that there are people who truly love us without conditions or expectations. Thank you, Carol, I replied. I have been so busy trying to be strong that I forgot I do not have to do it alone. What are you going to do now? She asked. I looked out the window at the blue Chicago sky, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Now I am going to get my life back. You are following the story. What would you do in Mary's place? Comment below with what city you are watching this from, and soon you will discover how Mary finally gets justice against those who tried to take advantage of her. Ashley's call came late on Friday night. I almost did not answer it. The caller ID on my screen made my stomach turn. Let us fix this, she texted right before calling. I answered it anyway. Mary. Her voice sounded different, tense and trembling, but coated with artificial sugar. Can we talk civilly? I am listening, I said emotionlessly. I know things got heated at the rehearsal, but we were all stressed. You know how weddings are. I should not have said what I said. You told me to leave, I said coldly. In front of everyone I was overwhelmed. Her voice trembled slightly. But please let us not throw everything away over a mistake. Charlie and I cannot afford to lose all the deposits. The guests are expecting a wedding. I could almost hear her trying to smile through gritted teeth. Be reasonable, she said. Do this for Charlie. Do not ruin his big day. My hand tightened around the phone. I am not ruining anything. I am saving myself. There was silence on the line. Then her voice dropped the sugary tone. You are a bitter old woman, she hissed. You have always been jealous of me. Charlie deserves better than you. Then let him marry someone better, too. I ended the call before she could answer. The phone rang again almost immediately. Charlie. This time I let it go to voicemail, stood up, and walked over to the window of my apartment. The lights of Chicago shined under the night sky. For 30 years, this view had been my comfort on lonely nights while raising my son. Now those same lights seemed like silent witnesses to my pain and my rebirth. The voicemail arrived a few minutes later. The screen lit up while I was folding laundry. Charlie, 10:47 at night. For a moment, I hesitated. A small and foolish part of me thought that maybe he was calling to apologize. I hit play. Mom. His voice was cold flat. I do not even know why I bother with this. You have never been a real mother to me. No, really, always too busy, too controlling, too cold. My chest tightened, but I did not move. Ashley was right about you. You have been jealous of her from the very beginning. That is why you are doing this. You cannot stand to see me happy. There was a pause, a heavy exhale. No wonder Dad left you, I get it now. The words hit like a slap in the face. No wonder Dad left you. That is what you are. Alone, bitter, always the victim. And now you destroyed the only good thing in my life. The line clicked as it ended. I stood there staring at the phone. The air was heavy and still all around me. Not a single tear fell. No, this time, instead of that, I felt empty hollow, as if a wire had finally snapped inside of me. Slowly, I pressed my thumb against the screen and hit delete. The message disappeared, and with it, something else. The last fragile thread that tied me to the little boy I once loved so much disappeared too. Being alone is better than being used. I set the phone on the table and turned off the light. It was over. The email arrived late on Sunday night. I almost did not open it. The subject line alone made my stomach turn. Let us put this behind us. I opened it anyway. Mom, we decided to forgive you for everything that has happened. I know emotions were running high and people said things they did not mean. Ashley and I talked it over, and we are willing to let you come to the wedding if you can behave and not make things awkward. This is our day, and we would appreciate it if you did not make it about yourself. Let us move forward as a family. Charlie. I stared at the screen, my jaw dropping open. Forgive me. A laugh burst out of my throat before I could stop it. It started small, sharp, but it grew until I was clutching my sides, shaking with bitter laughter. Forgive me. After I bankrolled their fairy tale, after Ashley kicked me out of the rehearsal like some hired help, after Charlie stood there silently while I was humiliated in front of everyone, they thought I needed forgiveness. I wiped a tear from the corner of my eye, not from sadness, but from laughing too hard. I hit reply and hovered my fingers over the keyboard, but I did not type a single word. They did not deserve an answer. Instead, I closed the laptop and pushed it aside. They could keep their little fantasy of control. I was completely done playing the fool. By Monday morning, the whispers had become a roar. It started with a single comment under Ashley's tearful video on Instagram. Did Mary not pay for the entire wedding? This does not add up. At first, Ashley's friends rushed to defend her. Do not spread lies. You do not know the whole story. She is a toxic mother trying to ruin their happiness. But then another comment appeared. My cousin works at the venue. Mary booked and paid for everything. Ashley and Charlie did not pay a single dollar. The dam broke. Screenshots of Ashley's honeymoon package charged to my credit card somehow leaked to a wedding gossip group. People were ruthless. So they used her to pay for a wedding and a luxury vacation, and then humiliated her. How classy, imagine biting the hand that feeds you. They deserve each other, spoiled and entitled. Even some of Charlie's old college friends commented, I am not surprised. He always let women walk all over him. I did not comment. I did not like or share it, but I saved every screenshot. Later that afternoon, Patty, my sister-in-law, called. Mary, she started cautiously, I did not realize. I am so sorry. We all thought. Ashley made it sound like you were trying to sabotage them for no reason. You believed her, I said calmly. I know. Patty sighed. But people are starting to see the truth now. I just wanted you to know you are no longer alone in this. I did not reply. I did not need her pity. What I needed and finally had was clarity. For years, I let people take thinking it was my job to keep the peace. But peace bought with self-sacrifice is not peace, it is silence. And I was done being silent. By the time the second week passed, the gossip had spread like wildfire. Ashley's Instagram account had gone quiet. Charlie's profile picture disappeared. It started small. A mutual friend posting, maybe do not bite the hand that feeds you next time. Then a cousin of Ashley's shared a critical tweet. If you cannot afford to pay for your own wedding, do not yell at the person who is paying for it. People were no longer just whispering, they were laughing. Screenshots of Ashley's posts leaked to a wedding forum. Brides and strangers alike tore her to shreds. She ruined her own wedding by being a brat. Seems like she thought her mother-in-law was her sugar daddy. The entitlement is unreal. Who kicks out the person financing the whole event? Even vendors joined in. A florist posted anonymously. We warned her that her mother-in-law was the contract holder. She did not care. She thought she was above the consequences. I did not say a word. I did not defend myself. I did not need to. The truth had a way of crawling out on its own. By the end of the month, Ashley and Charlie's guest list had evaporated. Friends stopped answering their calls. Their dream wedding was the talk of the town, not as a celebration, but as a cautionary tale. And I was sitting on a balcony 120 miles away, watching the sun sink below the horizon with a glass of champagne on the day that should have been their wedding. I booked a room in a small boutique hotel on the Florida coast. While their guests wondered what had happened, I was getting a massage and planning the next chapter of my life. I posted a quiet photo, my feet propped up the ocean, stretching endlessly before me. The caption was simple: "Happiness looks better on me." I did not check the likes or comments. I did not care if Charlie saw it or Ashley or any of the relatives who once called me dramatic. This was not for them. It was for me. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Charlie. I stared at the screen for a long moment before pressing decline. A text followed. "Can we talk?" We made mistakes. I turned off the phone and placed it face down on the table. For years, I let people drag me into their storms. Now I chose peace, and peace meant never stepping into their chaos again. They thought they could humiliate me and still live off my generosity. They were wrong. I was not their wallet. I was their wake-up call. 3 months later, I was at my main bakery in Chicago going over the numbers with my manager, Lucy. Business was doing better than ever, and I had opened a small branch in Florida where I now spent half my time. "The cinnamon rolls are selling incredibly well," Lucy said, showing me the sales charts. "And the new gluten-free line has attracted a completely new demographic." I smiled, satisfied. Since the wedding fiasco, I had channeled all my energy into my business and myself. I had dyed my hair an elegant silver shade, no longer fighting my gray hairs. I had updated my wardrobe not to fit anyone's expectations anymore, but to please myself. I had started painting classes, something I had always wanted to do for the first time in decades. I was living for me. The shop phone rang. Lucy answered. Then she looked at me with a cautious expression. "It is for you, Charlie Davis." My heart skipped a beat, but my voice remained steady. "Tell him I'm busy." Lucy nodded and relayed the message. After hanging up, she looked at me curiously. "That is the 3rd time this week." "I know." "Are you never going to talk to him?" I looked out the bakery window, watching people walk by, each absorbed in their own world, their own stories. "Maybe someday," I said finally, "but on my terms, not his." As I was locking up the shop that night, I saw a familiar figure waiting outside. Charlie, with his hands in his pockets, looked thinner and more tired than the last time I had seen him. For a moment, I considered leaving through the back door, but I was no longer that woman, the one who ran away, the one who hid. I took a deep breath and walked out the front door. "Charlie," I said, my voice neutral. "Mom," he replied, his eyes searching mine. "You look different." "I am. I have been calling you." "I know." There was an awkward silence. The night breeze in Chicago ruffled my hair as we looked at each other. Two strangers who had once been so close. "Ashley and I broke up," he said finally, "after everything." I showed no surprise. It was the inevitable outcome of a relationship built on sand. "I am sorry," I said, and I truly meant it. Despite everything, I never wanted my son to suffer. "You were right about her," Charlie continued, his voice low. "About a lot of things. It is not about being right, Charlie. I know. It is about respect, about valuing the people who truly love you." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from his childhood. "I have been in therapy trying to understand why I allowed all of this to happen, why I treated you like that." I said nothing, just waiting. "What I said in that voicemail?" His voice broke. "There is no excuse. I never should have said those things. I was so wrong, Mom, so terribly wrong." Tears shined in his eyes, but I made no move to comfort him. That was another woman, another Mary, the one who always rushed in to soothe everyone's pain. "What do you want, Charlie?" I asked directly. "A second chance," he said. "Not right now, not tomorrow. I know it will take time, but I want to try. I want to be the son you deserve." I looked past him toward the lights of the city I loved so much, the city where I had raised my son, built my business, found and lost, and then regained my strength. Time does not fix everything, Charlie. It only gives us space to decide what we really want. I know, and I have decided I want my mother back. I felt a soft pinch in my heart, not from pain, but from something more complex, the possibility of reconciliation, but on my terms, not his. "Come by the bakery on Tuesday," I finally said. "At 4 o'clock we will grab a coffee." A small smile appeared on his face. "Thank you, Mom." "Do not thank me yet. It is just a coffee. It is a start." As I watched him walk away, I felt a strange mix of emotions. It was not forgiveness, not yet. It was something more cautious, more dignified, a willingness to listen but never again at the expense of my own worth. 6 months later, I was sitting on the terrace of my new condo in Florida. The afternoon sun danced over the Atlantic and the scent of orange trees drifted in the breeze. My phone chimed with a message. "Carol, ready for your grand opening tomorrow." I smiled and replied, nervous but excited. After everything that had happened, I had decided to expand my business. Tomorrow, I would officially launch Sweet Memories Florida, my new beachfront bakery. It was no longer just a business. It was a symbol of my rebirth. The last few months had been transformative. I had met new friends, people who valued me for who I was not, for what I could give them. I had rediscovered old passions and found new ones. I had learned to set boundaries and to say no without feeling guilty. And yes, Charlie and I were rebuilding our relationship slowly, cautiously. Our weekly coffees had become a tradition. Sometimes we talked about deep things, the past, the pain. Other times we simply shared updates about our lives. He had gotten a new job far away from the pressures of his old office. He was learning to fend for himself without depending on anyone for his happiness or livelihood. As for Ashley, she had vanished from our lives as abruptly as she had entered. Rumors said she had moved to Texas looking for a fresh start, perhaps a new sugar daddy for her dreams of grandeur. I held no grudge against her. In some twisted way, I owed her gratitude. Without her cruelty, I might never have found my strength. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Martha, my new friend and neighbor, a retired painter who had introduced me to the art world. "Ready for our class?" she asked, smiling. "Always," I answered, grabbing my purse. As we walked together toward the local art studio, Martha looked at me curiously. "There is something different about you today, Mary. You look radiant." I smiled, feeling the sun on my face, the salty air on my skin. "I feel radiant. It is because of the grand opening tomorrow, partially," I admitted. "But it is something else. Today I realize that for the first time in my life, I am exactly where I want to be. I am not living for anyone else, only for me." Martha squeezed my arm affectionately. "That, my dear friend, is true freedom." That night, sitting on my terrace under the stars, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. From the young, abandoned mother working tirelessly to raise her son to the woman who finally found herself in the midst of betrayal. My phone buzzed with a message. "Charlie. Mom, I wanted to wish you good luck tomorrow. I am proud of you." A tear rolled down my cheek, but this time it was not from pain. It was from realization, the realization that sometimes the greatest love we can give is not to others, but to ourselves. I typed out a simple reply. "Thank you, son. See you soon." I took a deep breath of the night air and closed my eyes. The peace I felt was not the fake peace from before bought with my silence and submission. It was a genuine peace born from the storm tempered by fire. In the distance, the Atlantic waves crashed against the shore, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, is always in motion, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, always finding its way. and I, Mary Davis, at 60 years old, had finally found mine. Welcome to our story, family. Did you enjoy this story? What would you do in Mary's place? Have you gone through a similar situation? Comment below and share your thoughts. Do not forget to subscribe for more stories that teach us about courage, dignity, and the power of saying no when necessary. You can also watch 2 other favorite stories from the channel down below.